Not because life is easy, but because panic has never created clarity. The Stoics understood something most people forget. A tense mind cannot see opportunities. A restless soul cannot act wisely. You are not blocked because the universe is against you. You are blocked because you are gripping life too tightly. Stoicism teaches that when you fight reality, you lose twice, first in the mind, then in life. The moment you relax, you stop wasting energy on what you cannot control. And that energy returns to what actually matters: your actions, your choices, your character. You do not manifest by forcing outcomes. You manifest by becoming stable while the world shakes. Epictetus taught that peace begins the instant you stop demanding the world to behave according to your fears. When expectations drop, clarity rises. When desperation fades, wisdom appears. Relaxation is not weakness, it is discipline. A calm mind sees paths a frantic mind misses. A composed person attracts respect, trust, and opportunity, not because of magic, but because people respond to certainty and presence. The Stoics practiced negative visualization, imagining loss, failure, and hardship, not to suffer, but to free themselves from fear. Once fear loosens its grip, desire becomes clean, focused, and patient. This is where manifestation truly begins, not in wishful thinking, but in alignment with reality. You relax by accepting that outcomes are uncertain, but effort is not. You cannot command results, but you can command your response. And when your response is calm, consistent, and virtuous, life has no choice but to move. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, do the work, accept the result, repeat. No anxiety, no attachment, no drama. Relaxation clears resistance. Resistance delays progress. When you stop chasing outcomes, you move faster toward them. When you release the need to control everything, you gain control over yourself. And self-control is the highest form of power. So relax. Breathe. Act with purpose. Let go of the noise. What is meant for you does not require panic, only patience, discipline, and inner order. This is not passive waiting. This is active calm. And from calm, everything you want begins to align. Relaxation is not about escaping responsibility or avoiding effort. It is about creating the mental space where clear thinking becomes possible. When the mind is tense, every situation feels urgent, every obstacle feels personal, and every delay feels like failure. In that state, perception narrows. You stop seeing options and start reacting out of fear. Stoic philosophy teaches that this inner agitation is far more dangerous than any external problem because a disturbed mind cannot judge reality accurately. No matter how intelligent or capable a person is, stress clouds judgment and turns small issues into overwhelming burdens. A relaxed mind, on the other hand, restores perspective. When you are calm, you can separate what truly matters from what does not. You are no longer pulled in every direction by emotions or expectations. This clarity allows you to respond instead of react. Stoics believed that wisdom begins the moment emotional turbulence settles, because only then can reason guide action. Calmness gives you the ability to pause, evaluate, and choose deliberately, rather than being driven by impulse or anxiety. Clarity also strengthens consistency. When you are relaxed, your energy is not wasted on overthinking or self-doubt. You can focus fully on the task in front of you, doing it well, without obsessing over results you cannot control. This steady focus compounds over time. Small, well-directed actions taken with a clear mind often outperform frantic effort fueled by stress. Stoicism emphasizes this quiet persistence, doing what is right again and again without needing constant reassurance or immediate rewards. Moreover, clarity shapes how others perceive you. A calm presence communicates confidence and stability. People trust those who are composed under pressure because calmness signals understanding and self-mastery. Opportunities often arise not from chasing them aggressively, but from being mentally prepared to recognize and handle them when they appear. Relaxation sharpens awareness, allowing you to notice openings that panic would cause you to overlook. Ultimately, relaxation is not passive, it is active mental discipline. It requires letting go of unnecessary worries, unrealistic expectations, and the urge to control every outcome. By doing so, the mind becomes ordered, and from that order comes insight. Stoics understood that clarity is the foundation of effective action, and clarity cannot exist in a restless mind. When you relax, you return to reason, and reason is what allows life to move forward with purpose and direction. Stoic philosophy teaches that peace begins when you clearly understand the boundary between what is within your control and what is not. Most human suffering comes from trying to manage outcomes, people, and events that were never yours to command. When you tie your happiness to results, approval, or external success, you give away your inner stability. The Stoics saw this as a fundamental mistake, because anything external is uncertain and temporary. When you attempt to control what lies outside yourself, frustration is inevitable. True power, according to Stoicism, lies in self-governance. You may not control what happens, but you always control how you respond. Your thoughts, judgments, and actions are yours alone. By redirecting attention to these inner domains, the mind regains a sense of order. Instead of feeling helpless in the face of uncertainty, you feel grounded in what you can actually influence. This shift reduces anxiety because your energy is no longer scattered across uncontrollable variables. When you stop obsessing over outcomes, your actions become cleaner and more effective. You act because it is right to act, not because you are desperate for a specific result. This detachment improves performance. Athletes, leaders, and thinkers all perform better when they focus on execution rather than the scoreboard. Stoicism encourages this mindset by reminding you that effort is your responsibility, but results are shaped by many forces beyond you. Accepting uncertainty does not mean giving up ambition. It means pursuing goals with discipline while remaining emotionally independent from their outcome. This balance creates resilience. Failure no longer destroys you, and success does not inflate you. Both are treated as temporary conditions, not definitions of your worth. With this perspective, setbacks become feedback rather than personal defeats. This inner control also strengthens moral character. When you are not driven by fear of failure or hunger for validation, you are more likely to act with integrity. You choose honesty over convenience, patience over impulse, and courage over comfort. Stoics believed that virtue was the only true success because it could not be taken away by chance or circumstance. By controlling yourself instead of outcomes, you cultivate steady confidence. You wake up knowing that no matter what the day brings, your peace remains intact. Life may be unpredictable, but your response does not have to be. In this calm consistency, you find freedom. You move forward with purpose, accepting whatever comes, while remaining firmly rooted in your own discipline and reason. Stoic philosophy begins with a simple but demanding truth. Most of what causes stress in life was never under your control to begin with. People exhaust themselves trying to manage outcomes, reactions, timing, and approval, believing that if they just try harder, everything will go their way. The Stoics warned against this illusion. They taught that tying your peace to results makes you vulnerable to constant disappointment because the external world does not obey personal desires. Weather changes, people act. Unpredictably, and circumstances shift without warning. When you expect certainty from an uncertain world, frustration becomes unavoidable. By learning to control yourself instead of outcomes, you reclaim your inner stability. Your thoughts, judgments, and actions remain within your authority regardless of what happens outside. This shift is not about lowering standards or abandoning goals. It is about redefining success. Success becomes the quality of your effort rather than the final result. When you act with discipline, honesty, and focus, you have already succeeded in the only way that truly matters. This mindset frees you from anxiety because your self-worth is no longer hostage to chance. Detachment from outcomes sharpens effectiveness. When you are not emotionally entangled with results, you can think more clearly and adapt more quickly. You notice mistakes without defensiveness and adjust without panic. This flexibility is a form of strength. Stoics believed that calm responsiveness outperforms rigid control because life is constantly changing. Those who cling to a single outcome break when reality resists them, while those who remain internally flexible continue moving forward. This approach also builds resilience in failure and humility in success. When things go wrong, you do not collapse into self-blame or bitterness. You examine what was within your control, learn from it, and move on. When things go well, you do not become arrogant or dependent on praise. You recognize that favorable outcomes are temporary and often influenced by factors beyond your effort. This balanced perspective keeps the ego steady, preventing both despair and pride. Over time, controlling yourself rather than outcomes creates deep confidence. You stop fearing uncertainty because you trust your ability to respond wisely. Each challenge becomes a test of character instead of a threat to identity. This inner command allows you to act decisively without desperation and persist without frustration. Stoics understood that the highest form of freedom is not shaping the world to your will, but shaping your will to remain calm, disciplined, and grounded, regardless of how the world behaves. When you try to force life to move according to your expectations, you create tension between yourself and reality. Stoic philosophy teaches that this tension is the root of unnecessary suffering. The world does not resist you personally, it simply follows its own order. When you demand that events happen faster, people behave differently, or outcomes arrive exactly as imagined, you place your peace in constant conflict with how life actually works. This inner struggle drains energy and clouds judgment. Forcing outcomes often comes from fear of failure, fear of delay, or fear of losing control. In this state, actions become frantic rather than deliberate. You push when patience is required, speak when silence would be wiser, and cling when letting go would create space. The Stoics warned that impatience blinds reason. A person who rushes reality is no longer acting with wisdom, but reacting to anxiety. This reaction creates resistance not only in external circumstances, but within the mind itself. When you resist reality, you fight twice. First, you suffer mentally by wishing things were different. Second, you suffer practically by making poor decisions under pressure. Stoicism teaches acceptance not as surrender, but as alignment. Acceptance means recognizing what is happening without emotional protest, so you can respond effectively. Once you stop arguing with reality, your energy returns. That energy can then be used for thoughtful action instead of wasted frustration. Life moves more smoothly when approached with calm persistence rather than force. Like water shaping stone, steady effort guided by reason outlasts aggressive pushing. The Stoics believed that nature rewards harmony, not desperation. When you work with circumstances instead of against them, obstacles become navigable rather than overwhelming. You begin to see delays as signals, not insults, and setbacks as lessons rather than punishments. Releasing force does not mean abandoning effort. It means acting without emotional attachment to immediate results. You still work, plan, and pursue goals, but you do so with patience and adaptability. This approach keeps the mind flexible. If one path closes, you calmly look for another. Resistance fades because you are no longer rigidly tied to a single outcome. In letting go of force, you gain endurance. You stop burning energy on anger and disappointment and start investing it in consistent action. Stoics understood that progress often unfolds quietly and slowly. By trusting this process, you move forward without inner conflict. When you stop forcing life, life stops pushing back. And in that balance, progress becomes natural, sustainable, and far more powerful. Calmness is often misunderstood as passivity, but Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite. True calm is not the absence of action, it is the mastery of inner turbulence while taking action. Anyone can react emotionally, raise their voice, or act impulsively under pressure. That requires no discipline. What requires strength is remaining composed when emotions surge, when outcomes are uncertain, and when circumstances challenge your patience. The Stoics viewed this inner steadiness as one of the highest forms of power a person can develop. A calm mind does not mean you feel nothing. It means you are not ruled by what you feel. Emotions arise naturally, but Stoicism teaches that you do not have to obey them. By pausing before reacting, you give reason the chance to guide behavior. This pause is where strength lives. It prevents regretful words, reckless decisions, and unnecessary conflict. Over time, this habit of restraint builds a reputation for reliability and wisdom, both in yourself and in the eyes of others. Calmness also sharpens perception. When emotions dominate, the mind exaggerates threats and distorts priorities. A composed person can assess situations realistically, seeing both risks and opportunities without panic. This clarity leads to better choices. Leaders, thinkers, and individuals who handle pressure well are rarely the loudest or most aggressive. They are the ones who remain steady when others lose control. Stoics believed that calm presence influences situations more effectively than force or anger ever could. Developing calm requires practice and self-discipline. It involves observing your thoughts, questioning automatic reactions, and reminding yourself what truly matters. The Stoics trained themselves to expect difficulty, so they were not shocked by it. By mentally preparing for challenges, they reduced emotional spikes when adversity arrived. This preparation transforms stress into something manageable rather than overwhelming. Calmness also protects inner freedom. When you are easily provoked, others can control your emotional state without effort. Stoicism teaches that losing your composure means surrendering your autonomy. By maintaining calm, you remain in command of yourself regardless of external behavior. This independence is deeply empowering. You are no longer pulled into drama, arguments, or emotional chaos that serve no real purpose. Ultimately, calmness is a cultivated strength. It allows you to endure hardship without bitterness, pursue goals without desperation, and face uncertainty without fear. Stoics understood that while the external world may be unstable, inner stability is always available through discipline and reason. In mastering calm, you master yourself, and self-mastery is the foundation of a resilient and purposeful life. Many people believe that wanting something intensely is enough to bring it into their lives, but Stoic philosophy offers a far more grounded understanding. Desire alone is unstable. It shifts with mood, circumstance, and comparison. When desire is not aligned with reality and disciplined action, it becomes a source of frustration rather than fulfillment. The Stoics taught that results emerge not from wishing or emotional longing, but from harmony between intention, effort, and acceptance. Alignment begins with understanding the nature of the world. Reality does not respond to urgency or impatience. It responds to consistent, rational action over time. When you accept this, desire becomes quieter and more focused. Instead of craving outcomes, you commit to daily practices that move you in the right direction. This shift reduces inner conflict. You are no longer fighting the present moment while dreaming of the future. You are fully engaged in what you can do now. Stoicism emphasizes patience as a form of intelligence. Impatience signals resistance to how progress actually works. Growth is often slow and uneven, and attachment to rapid results creates emotional volatility. When desire is tempered by acceptance, it stops pulling you into disappointment. You still aim high, but you no longer suffer if progress is gradual. This emotional stability allows you to persist longer than those driven by urgency alone. Alignment also requires acceptance of uncertainty. The Stoics believed that clinging to specific outcomes weakens the mind. When you define success too narrowly, anything outside that definition feels like failure. By widening your perspective, you remain adaptable. You focus on effort, learning, and character rather than a single end result. This adaptability is what allows opportunities to unfold naturally. Many paths lead to the same destination, but rigid desire blinds you to alternatives. When your actions are aligned with reality, manifestation becomes a byproduct rather than a struggle. You attract results because your behavior is steady, your mind is clear, and your expectations are realistic. Others sense this grounded energy. Trust, respect, and opportunity tend to follow those who are patient and consistent rather than restless and demanding. Stoics understood that fulfillment comes from living in accordance with reason, not chasing emotional highs. Desire refined by discipline becomes purpose. Purpose guided by acceptance becomes progress. In this alignment, you stop chasing life and begin moving with it. What you seek arrives not because you demanded it, but because your actions and mindset made space for it to grow naturally over time. When the mind is stable, life begins to respond differently. Stoic philosophy teaches that inner order shapes outer results, not through mysticism, but through cause and effect. A person who is mentally steady acts with intention instead of impulse, with patience instead of panic. This consistency creates momentum. Over time, small disciplined actions accumulate into meaningful progress. While chaos scatters effort, inner order concentrates it. A stable mind allows you to see situations as they are, not as fear or desire exaggerates them. When thoughts are organized and emotions are regulated, decision-making improves. You choose the right moment to act, the right words to speak, and the right battles to fight. This precision reduces mistakes and wasted energy. Stoics believed that clarity of mind is a competitive advantage in any area of life because most people are distracted by internal noise. Inner order also affects how others respond to you. Calm, grounded individuals naturally inspire confidence. People feel safer around those who are predictable in character and measured in reaction. Trust forms when emotions are steady and behavior is consistent. Opportunities often arise through relationships, and relationships flourish when your presence is composed rather than volatile. Without saying a word, inner stability communicates reliability and strength. This mental order also protects you during adversity. When challenges appear, a stable mind does not collapse into complaint or despair. Instead, it evaluates what can be done and proceeds accordingly. Stoicism teaches that suffering increases when the mind resists difficulty. By accepting hardship as part of life, you prevent it from disrupting your inner structure. This resilience allows you to continue moving forward while others become stuck. Over time, this inner discipline shapes your identity. You begin to trust yourself because your reactions are consistent and your values do not shift under pressure. This self-trust becomes a powerful foundation. You no longer seek constant reassurance or validation because your sense of direction comes from within. External success then becomes an extension of internal stability, not a replacement for it. Stoics understood that life mirrors inner order through action, not coincidence. When your mind is disciplined, your habits improve. When your habits improve, your outcomes follow. Progress is not forced. It unfolds naturally from consistency. By cultivating inner stability, you create the conditions where growth, respect, and achievement can emerge. In this way, outer progress is simply the visible result of inner balance maintained over time.